Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ask Huda. I'm your host, Jamil Rashid, and I have with me today Sheikh Muhammad Salah. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaykum salam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Jazakal khair, Sheikh, for being with us on Ask Huda. Okay, now it's your time. If you want to be with us on Ask Huda, you've got to ring us or email us. Let's remind you of the telephone number. The country code is 202, then it's 38555, 248 or 249. If you want to send a question which is slightly longer, a bit more detailed, then send an email to us at ask@huda.tv. And I've got two announcements, the same as usual. Please do turn down your television sets when you get through. And the second, please do call in early. Sheikh, if I can start with a question from Sister Maria. She wants to know about wills, Islamically. She's asking, do we have to have a will? And if we do, how do we go about getting it made? Can I make it myself, or do I have to go to a solicitor or to a company?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Praise be to Allah, we praise Him alone, and we send the best peace and salutation upon His last Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It was narrated that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said in the sound hadith, ما حق امرئ مسلم يبيت ليلتين إلا ووصيته مكتوبة عنده تحت رأسه, which means that a Muslim should not wait even for a couple of nights while preparing to write his will. Rather, he should have it as soon as possible. And the Prophet ﷺ says, مَكْتُوبَةٌ عِنْدَهُ تَحْتَ رَأْسِهِ, that he has it always with him, like beneath his pillow. Which means to bring always to the mind of the individual the sense of departure. This is my will. I'm leaving. When? I don't know. It could be tomorrow, it could be after, it could be before, which will interrupt any plans of living forever, as some people might think. So the will has several benefits. One is to remind us with death, which is a very, very important mean of remaining steadfast on the straight path. Second is to ensure the rights of the heirs after death. Not only that, there are certain practices and certain things that the person will be in need to ask or advise his family members or his heirs to fulfill after his death, such as if he owed a fasting, if he owed a kafara, a ransom, which he was not able to fulfill during his life, or if he was in debt. Some people might think that the will is only related to if the person was extremely wealthy, and he says, give this to my son and give this to my cousin. And no, sometimes it's also by laying upon the shoulders of the heirs the responsibility of paying off and settling his debt, which he was not able to pay. And that's why we say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the verses of Al-Mirath, مِن بَعْدِ وَصِيَّةٍ يُوصَى بِهَا أَوْ دَيْنٍ. So we divide, we divide the inheritance and we give the heirs their shares after paying al-wasiyya and ad-dayn. And the right order, as a matter of fact, is to pay and settle the debt of the dead person first.
So, Sheikh, I'm going to have to stop you because it sounds really strange. I mean, in the West, when we lived in the West, we know that, at the end of the day, you want to give your wealth away. But to say to people to pay my debt, usually you run away, you're happy for someone.
And that happens even in people's lives. I have come across some people who asked me that I borrowed some money from the credit card. Then I filed for bankruptcy. It's legal. Even if the person was capable to pay, because he has some hidden cash here or there, and they can. But the law, this is the local law. It says if you can pay and if you don't have assets where they're known to the authorities, then you can file for bankruptcy. And filing for bankruptcy means that no one can trace you, no one can chase you. Khalas, they drop your debt. So he said that 15 years ago or so, I borrowed this money and I used it and I made businesses. No. This money you still owe it. And if you die, your children, your heirs still owe it. But this is kuffar, this is not Muslims, this is a company which deals, as long as you agree to take this money as a loan, then you must return it back. If you are not able to return it in your life, then it is a responsibility of the heirs, those who have the right to inherit your wealth if inherit from you if you're wealthy or if you left any inheritance. Now it becomes the responsibility to settle your debt as well. And the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam informed us that the person will be punished in his grave and in the hereafter because of his debt, to the point that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam refused to lead the funeral prayer for one of his companions who died during his life simply because he owed somebody some money, until one of the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam committed himself to settle his debt. Otherwise, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Sallu ala sahibikum." You guys go ahead and pray, but I'm not going to pray. To indicate that it is very important not to think that because the local law you can get away somehow, or you rip the credit card and you're gone, you're gone. No, you're not gone. It's all before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مِن بَعْدِ وَصِيَّةٍ يُوصَى بِهَا أَوْ دَيْنٍ. And the right order is that we settle the debt first, then we turn into the wasiyah if the person was living a well. The wasiyah is another issue I would like to tackle, but before that, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said concerning borrowing money, من أخذ أموال الناس يريد آداءها أدى الله عنه ومن أخذها يريد إتلافها أتلفه الله. This is a friendly advice to all the believers, regardless where they live, living in a Muslim country or a non-Muslim country. Whenever you borrow money from any firm or an individual or an organization or a bank, you borrow it because you are in need for it. And while you're taking this money, you got to keep in mind that if you have a strong intention that once you are able to pay it off, you will, then guess what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He will help you to settle this. أَدَّى اللَّهُ عَنْهُ. That's now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's responsibility. But on the contrary, while one is taking this money, either from the credit card or from whatever, or from an individual, it's very common as well. Say, promise in a year period of time I'll pay it back. But he's not planning to. In this condition, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, وَمَنْ أَخَذَهَا يُرِيدُ إِتْلَافَهَا أَتْلَفَهُ اللَّهُ. Allah will destroy him and will make him really bankrupt. We'll continue this after taking a few phone calls.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, we have Sister Aisha from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Sister, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I have two questions.
Okay.
The first one is regarding the mahram relationship.
Mm-hmm.
If a woman marries a second time after the death of her first husband, but she is a daughter from the first husband, now she marries a man who has a son from his first wife, are they two considered as brother and sister? Is that son of the second husband a mahram for this daughter of the first husband?
Okay.
And my second question is about smoking. Is it considered as haram in Islam, or is it just like disliked?
Okay. Barakallahu feeki. Okay, thank you very much, Sister Aisha from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Next, we have Sister Fatima, also from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Sister, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi.
Yeah. In Riyadh right now.
Okay.
I have two questions, please. The first one, back home in India, a man has married his elder brother's daughter, which is a haram relationship. And he has kids. So their family members are worried what to do about it. They are not able to force him to break that relationship, but they have broken all relationships with him. What is to be done in such a case?
Okay.
Second question, please. In Nawafil Salah, can we pray for our own needs in Sajood, in our own language?
Okay.
Please. Thank you very much.
Okay. Barakallahu feek. Okay, next we have another Sister Aisha, this time from Bahrain. Sister, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I have three questions.
Okay.
My first question is that what is the Islamic ruling on saving the money or planning for the future, because people many times say this, that we should save some money or do something, plan something for future, for our kids' future, or if somebody gets sick or something, we should have something for that.
Okay.
And my second question is that my father-in-law, he has asked my husband for quite a lot of money for my sister-in-law's wedding. My husband can afford it easily, and but we know that he's gonna spend this on un-Islamic cultural things. He will give her some dowry and all these things. And my husband also knows this thing, that if he will not give this money to his father, so he will borrow from someone else. So what can we do in this thing? And my last question is that how about attending this marriage which is un-Islamic, like there will be mixed gathering, and we asked that we don't want to attend this, so but this my father-in-law, he was getting very angry and he was very upset. We tried our best, but we cannot change their views.
Okay, sister. Okay, Sister Aisha there from Bahrain. Okay, we had some problems with the line there, but we got to all the questions. Jazakallah, Sister Aisha. Now we have Sister Wafa from Egypt. Sister, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Sheikh, for all the advices and the answers. Please, Sheikh, there was in a show on Huda channel a discussion about polygamy. And it was mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ didn't allow Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, to have another wife with Fatima radiallahu anha. And they said that was because the other woman was the daughter of Abu Jahl.
Correct.
I searched about the hadith and I found that the Prophet ﷺ said, I don't permit unless Ali divorced my daughter. Fatima is a part of me, I hate what she hates, and what hurts her hurts me. My questions are, if the other woman was the daughter of Abu Jahl, Allah says, لا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى. He wasn't responsible about her father's act.
Correct.
And secondly, why did the Prophet ﷺ didn't permit a thing Allah made it lawful? Please, Sheikh, this point needs more elaboration, because those who go against polygamy always pick up this hadith and focus on it, and there is no strong reply on them.
Okay.
So I need your advice, Sheikh.
Sure, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, next we have Brother Fasir, also from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Brother, you're live on Ask Huda. Your questions, please.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, in Arabia, before the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before he became the prophet, it was the time of Prophet Abraham. Yet there were many Jews and Christians following Prophet Jesus and Moses at the time of the Prophet. But it was the time of Prophet Abraham before Rasulullah became the Prophet. So what about this faith? Can we clarify on that? And second question is that, can we recite Quran by looking into it while prayer?
What was the first question, Fasih?
Okay. From the starting, or?
Yes, if you could give us a question.
We got the story, but what is the question specifically?
Okay, in Arabia, before Prophet Muhammad ﷺ became the Prophet, it was the time of Prophet Abraham.
Correct.
Yet there were many Jews and Christians following Prophet Jesus and Moses. But it was the time of Prophet Abraham. So what about this faith? Can you please clarify on that?
Okay, could you give us a second question, please, brother?
Yes. Can we recite Quran by looking into it while prayer, or does it nullify the prayer?
Okay.
Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah fiqh. Okay.
Alaykum salam.
There's Brother Fasir there from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Let's go over to Sister Aisha's question, Sheikh, from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Actually, did you want to finish off on the issue of the will?
Correct. I would like to go back to the hadith which I just quoted, that the Prophet ﷺ said, من أخذ أموال الناس يريد أداءها أدى الله عنه ومن أخذها يريد إتلافها أتلفه الله. This is a prophetic promise on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If any person borrows some money because he's in need and he's planning to pay it off within the time frame that he vowed to pay it back and to settle his debt, with this sincere intention, it is sufficient to have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be his help and to settle it on his behalf. Addallahu an. The word addallahu an means that Allah will pay it off on his behalf. How? By facilitating for him the means and giving him the provisions which will be enough to pay off. And that's why Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned with this regard a hadith of a man from the nations before us, the Israelites, who wanted to borrow some money, 1,000 dirham, 1,000 dinar, from somebody. He said, give me a witness, give me a wakil. He said, Allah is my witness, Allah is my wakil. So he gave him the money, then he left, and he was eager and keen to pay it back on time. Once he got hold of the money where he can pay it back, he was waiting for a ship to take him from point B to point A, where he can meet the person who was waiting for him on the shore. But there was no ride. So he felt very sorry. Then he spoke to Allah the Almighty and he said, Oh Allah, when this man, the lender, asked me for a witness, I said, Allah is my witness. When he asked me for a wakil, I said, Allah is my wakil. And now he's waiting for his money. Then he picked up a piece of wood, of a tree, and he dug it from inside, and he wrapped the money, the 1,000 dirham or whatever, and he put it inside. Then he threw it in the water, in the ocean. And he said, Oh Allah, let this money reach my lender. The other person was waiting on the shore, waiting for the borrower to show up, but he didn't show up, and there was no ships. So he waited until he decided, well, oh Allah, he said that you are his witness, you are his wakil, and now I have to go. So he saw a piece of wood was floating. This is a hadith, this is not a fictitious story. This is a sound hadith that the Prophet ﷺ is showing us that whenever the person is sincere, what would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do to make it easy for him to fulfill his achievement? أصدق الله يصدق. Be honest and truthful with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah will deliver right away, just simply because of your intention and the maximum effort you can make, as much as you can afford. So he saw this piece of wood. He said, well, let me pick it up. Maybe you can use it as a fire logs. So he took it, and at home he was trying to break it so that he can use it to kindle fire. And he saw a sack of money, and he saw the exact amount which he lent to the person. He was very delighted and happy. Then the other person, once he found a ride, he came to the person with another same amount of money, assuming that maybe the money didn't reach, but he wanted to settle his debt. The hadith shows us the following, that when the borrower was sincere, if any person says that I sent some money or a message in a piece of wood and I threw it in the ocean and it reached, you're going to say he's crazy, right? But things like that happened in this contemporary time. In this time of ours, we don't have to discuss it in details, but I'm just saying that if you're sincere in your intention while you're borrowing the money, then don't ask how and where will I get the money from.
Alhamdulillah.
Allah will definitely make it easy for you to pay off your debt. Second, on the other hand, وَمَنْ أَخَذَهَا يُرِيدُ إِتْلَافَهَا أَتْلَفَهُ اللَّهُ. Some people borrow while they have. They just borrow because they think this person is rich, let me just get something out of him. And I had a case before me where people disputed and they asked my consultation. Somebody borrowed a great amount of money, several $1,000. And now it was time to pay off. But he said no. So when I asked him, why not? He said, Sheikh, come on, these guys are very rich. So in his mind, he justified his misdoing as these guys are very rich, and this is nothing comparing to what they have. And that's why, in no time, Allah destroyed his business completely. He turned into a beggar. I have seen all of that. I have seen an example similar to the first one, where one wanted to pay, so he put it in an envelope, and it reached. And this is very strange. And I have seen somebody taking the money of others without right, and claiming that it was lost or whatever, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed his wealth and destroyed his lifestyle. This is a promise that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took upon himself. So, before dividing the inheritance, and before fulfilling the will of the dead person, we must make sure that we settle his debt. And amongst the loans that the dead person owes to lenders, or a commitment that he took upon himself, a very interesting thing. What we call it a deferred dowry. A deferred dowry. The deferred dowry is a part of the dowry. where the man says to the woman upon getting married, I will pay that much upfront right now, or I will not pay at all, just very insignificant amount, or this ring. But the deferred dowry is, some people say, $500,000 or $1 million. You know, they exaggerate, they think this is just a word, she will not get anything out of me, or I'm not planning to divorce her. No, brothers. This deferred dowry is a debt that you committed yourself to pay to your wife. Whether you stay forever together, or you divorce her, God forbid, or you die and leave her alive, that means you have to settle this debt with her. So if this person dies before dividing the inheritance, even though the wife is one of the heirs, before even giving her her share from the inheritance, we say how much he owed you. That much. So we settle this first, even if it covers the entire wealth. So we begin with the debt, then with the wasiyah, which the Prophet ﷺ said, ما حق امرئ مسلم يبيت ليلتين إلا ووصيته مكتوبة عنده تحت رأسه. And that covers everything, including an advice to his family members and those who are under his guardianship, to be God-fearing, to be righteous, and not to commit any violations upon his death, such as wailing and yelling and screaming and criticizing Allah's judgment or decree. We said before that the Prophet ﷺ stated that الْمَيِّتُ يُعَذَّبُ بِبُكَاءِ أَهْلِ عَلَيْهِ. Not the ordinary or the regular cry. Rather, it is the objection to Allah's decree. And one will be responsible for that, even though Allah said, and there is no bearer of a sin that bears the sin of another, simply because he agreed to during his life or did not warn his family against, and Allah knows best.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Okay, we've got two calls from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The first is Brother Jamal. Brother, you're live and ask Huda your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Shaykh, I have 5 questions regarding prayer.
Okay, I'll be able to take 3 of those if you can give them to me.
I have now remembered 5 questions.
Okay, well I can't take 5, but I can take 3.
Because there are other callers waiting.
So if you can give me the...
These are very short questions.
Okay, we'll see what we can do.
Go on.
Tell them.
Number 1, while praying, we should put together our hands or not after ruku, standing from ruku.
Okay.
Second question, while prostrating, we will have to before first put knee or hand. These feel one hadith, kal ba'ir, like camel.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And third hadith, jalsa-i-istirah. What do you think about this?
Sorry?
Jalsa-i-istirah.
Jalsatul istirah.
Aywa. And fourth question is, if I make intention to pray like I want to enter into Jannah, is this correct, or I want to get the pleasure of God? Is this correct, or I want to escape from the hellfire? Is this correct?
Okay.
These 3 intentions both are same or different meanings? Number 5th question. Sheikh, you have in one program you read one hadith about the concentration in prayer. Laysa lil insani. I don't know the full hadith. Would you recall that hadith?
What is the again?
Concentration.
Laysa lil insani fi jaza illa ma. I don't remember the words accurately.
Okay.
Please, these are the 5 questions.
Okay.
Shukran. Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah feek. Okay, we'll see if we can get those questions in for you, Brother Jamal from the KSA there. Okay, Sister Karima, you're next on Ask Huda from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Your question, please. Sister Karima, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And thank you for your patience.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Jamil.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
My question is, kindly explain the type of ibadah which are permissible for a menstruating woman.
Okay.
Can she recite the Yasin every morning, and can she recite the Surah Kaf on the Thursday night, whether it is all right? And the other thing is, between sunrise and Zuhr, that is after sunrise and Zuhr, how many rakats of Sunnah is it permissible to pray? Can someone pray? If she is able to, how many rakats can she pray? And my third question would be, what are the virtues of reciting the last 3 verses of Surah Hashr in the morning and evening?
Okay.
6 verses.
Okay, that's it. And one more 4th question, is it all right, because I have made it a practice to recite the 99 names of Allah every day, Sort of in the morning, I get my children also to recite, because they recite the Yasin, and I get them to recite it after that. But now in many of your programs, your answers, I mean, you have said that, I don't know if I understand well, that it is not to recite just the 99 by themselves. You ask Allah by saying, with the names we don't know too.
Okay.
He hasn't revealed to us. So just tell me whether it is correct to recite this and ask for, dua.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Alhamdulillah.
Barakallah feek. Jazakallah khair, sister. Okay, Sheikh. Sister Aisha from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, she called in asking about the situation of mahram. She said that she's going to be marrying, her sister's going to be marrying, and she's divorced. She's got a child from the previous marriage. She's married somebody who's also got a son from a previous marriage. This son and daughter, is the son a mahram for this daughter? What's their relationship, Sheikh?
Now, the son of the stepfather who's going to marry her, he's going to be a stepfather of her daughter. And she's going to be a stepmother of his son. The boy and the girl don't have this mahram relationship, meaning if they're grown up and they want to get married, that's permissible and that's possible. And on the other hand, it means if they happen to stay in the same house, they need a mahram in between, because it is permissible for them to get married. So it's not allowed for him to see her without the full hijab. Nor is it allowed for her to hang around with him, claiming that he's my stepfather's son, or he's like my brother. But if they were young, and what happens that she, for instance, suckles his son, her stepson, then in this condition, her daughter and her stepson becomes brothers and sisters due to suckling.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Okay, next we have Sister Marwa from United Arab Emirates. Sister, you're live on Ask Her your question, please. Sister Marwa, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, your question, please, sister.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, my question is regarding the niqab and the hijab. There are two questions. A lady wearing niqab, is it allowed for her to remove it if there is a threat to her safety? Like going to a home country, and there was an incident that somehow the police had made some threats for some Muslim ladies who are wearing niqab, and they were checking it. So is it allowed for a woman who's wearing niqab to remove it, in the airport?
Okay.
And then the second question is, there are so many ladies who are wearing only abaya and the hijab without covering the faces. So I just want to know, Sheikh, if there is any reference for this, that the Muslim ladies before were covering their faces. I mean, what is the root of this? Because actually I'm a revert, so I had learned that wearing niqab has so many references.
Okay.
But without the uncovering of the face, I couldn't really figure out where this comes from. So I just want to know if this is acceptable, if the lady is not covering her face.
Okay. Okay, barakallah feek. Sister Marwa there from the United Arab Emirates. We're going to take a short break and inshallah return in a couple of minutes. Please stay with us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
The religion of Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world, and the majority of that growth is taking place right here in the United States of America. According to most reliable estimates, there are more than 7 million Muslims living in the United States of America. Muslims have become valuable and vital assets to the American society. So please join me as I travel around America and introduce you to a few of the many Muslims in America.
There is no God but Allah. Muhammad is his messenger. La ilaha illallah. Muhammadur Rasulullah. There is no God but Allah. Muhammad is his messenger.
When you are weak and the road seems long, remember We're looking at the names of Allah from the perspective of not only their understanding, knowing what they are, knowing what they mean, but also looking at how they should impact on our lives. We should gain from it a sense of Allah, the vastness of Allah's mercy, how it encompasses every aspect of His creation. Al-Malik, Al-Malik, and Al-Malik. Al-Malik translated as the sovereign Lord, Al-Malik, the owner, and Al-Malik, the king. In the names of Allah.
Allah is the only guide. When your heart is breaking and your pain makes you fall, remember, just remember, Allah sees it all.
My name is Sharif Tuni, and this is brought to you from Huda TV. In today's edition, we'll be discussing about the day and night.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala equated as-samawat with darkness, the firmament with darkness, and equated the earth with light. Why? Are there really pillars that cannot be seen?
Or is it an unseen pillar?
Everything is running, but the relationships are fixed. So that it would appear to people as if nothing is running, you see. We are destroying our environment with our own hands. And that's why the Quran says, ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس ليذيقهم بعض الذي عملوا لعلهم يرجعون.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ask Huda. Before we go back into the questions, I just want to remind you of our telephone numbers quickly. The country code is 202, then it's 38555 248 or 249. Sheikh, Sister Aisha asked a question regarding smoking. Now, she said, is it haram or, and I like the next phrase, and this is why I wrote it down, just disliked, Sheikh. So what is it, just disliked or haram?
Usually you hear from me that smoking is definitely prohibited.
Mm-hmm.
And its prohibition, not just like the prohibition of drinking, it's even worse. Worse in what sense? Number one, it is prohibited because it is amongst al-khaba'ith, the evil acts, and it is very harmful, and it has no benefit whatsoever in it. And that is the same reason why Allah prohibited the intoxicants. And why is it more prohibited than drinking? Because its harm is extended to others, what we call it the second-hand smokers. People who happen to be sitting in a place where somebody is smoking at work or at home, and they end up having themselves cancer due to smoking unwillingly. Such people have been hurt because of the evil doing of others, while the Prophet ﷺ said, لا ضرر ولا ضرار. Harm should not be inflicted nor reciprocated. You should not harm yourself, nor should you cause any harm to others. Smoking is definitely a waste of money, and it ruins your health. For those who would like more detail, they can search the web to find the rate of those who die annually due to smoking. And if you'd like to have a physical evidence, look at the countries which actually started this myth, smoking. Now, gradually, they started banning smoking everywhere. In restaurants, at work. The only place you can smoke now is hidden in your own bathroom, at home. But you cannot smoke in public, because they're taking care of the health of their people, while they're exporting, of course, this toxic and these poisons to our countries, where in most of our countries we don't have a firm and a strong law to ban that. Including when we go to perform Hajj and Umrah. It is very sad, it breaks my heart, and I feel miserable when I see somebody who's wearing ihram and is smoking within the boundaries of the haram, not far away from the entrance of the masjid and the Kaaba. What's even more worse, during the day of Arafah, when you see people supposedly there to ask Allah for mercy, to forgive them their sins, but they can never stop smoking. They can never stop challenging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wasting their money and ruining their health. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has said, نِعْمَتَانِ مَغْبُونٌ فِيهِمَا كَثِيرٌ مِّنَ النَّاسِ. The word غبن or غبن means to be wronged, to be oppressed, not to be treated justly. And it's normally in trade, in selling and buying. Many people actually lose a great portion of their leisure time and of their health without realizing that these two gifts amongst the greatest gifts that Allah bestowed upon the person. So, whenever 20 years pass of smoking and then he's very sick, has a lung cancer or whatever, then he would wish that he would go back to stop smoking or avoid smoking completely. Also, it is worth of mentioning here, I attended a very interesting conversation between two kids, 5 and 6 years old, where somebody, one of them, the younger, was seeing somebody smoking, said, "You man, smoking is haram, and it is harmful. You should stop smoking." So the other kid said to him, "Yeah, you're right. Smoking is bad, but it's only bad for kids, not for adults." So the younger kid looked at him and said, "And why is that?" All of that, and I was listening. It was a very interesting conversation. He said, "Because my dad sometimes smoked." So basically, dad was teaching his son, because he's smoking, he's saying it is bad for kids, but it is okay for adults. What do you expect from this kid? One day, once he reaches an age where he can buy a cigarette, or he can smoke, he will not hesitate, because now smoking has become a sign of adulthood, become a sign of grown up. So what kind of signal we're giving to our children? What kind of message we are delivering to our Muslim families? Brothers and sisters, this is not the opinion of Sheikh Muhammad alone. This is the opinion of the great muftis, and it is concluded from both the Quran and the Sunnah. Smoking is definitely prohibited.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Okay, we've got Sister Khadija next from Egypt. Sister, you're live on Ask Huda. Your question, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I want to ask if my aunt's husband is my mahram in any way. I mean, should I take my face veil in front of him or something?
Who?
Aunt's husband.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's not in the A of Surah An-Nisa in verse 23.
حرمت عليكم.
Sorry?
حرمت عليكم أمهاتكم وبناتكم وأخواتكم.
But my mother told me that he might be somehow mahram. I don't know how.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Wa alaikum assalam. Sister Khadija there from Egypt. Okay, Sister Fatima, called from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. She's asking about this relationship. She says somebody got married to his niece. Okay, that's his brother's daughter, and he had children with this girl or this woman. The family have broken up their relationship in terms they don't contact him, they keep away from him. But she really wants to know, how do we go about solving this kind of problem? Yeah.
This is a very obvious state of adultery. We shouldn't call it marriage. We shouldn't say that somebody got married to his sister. That's one of his maharim. According to the verse of Surah An-Nisa, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ أُمَّهَاتُكُمْ وَبَنَاتُكُمْ وَأَخَوَاتُكُمْ وَعَمَّاتُكُمْ وَخَالَاتُكُمْ وَبَنَاتُ الْأَخِ وَبَنَاتُ الْأُخْتِ. بنات الأخي وبنات الأخت, the nieces, whether from the paternal or the maternal side. She is like your own daughter, she is like your own sister, she is like your own mother. They were all compiled within the same verse. So it is not permissible. And if somebody dares to do that, then this is a state of adultery. And the children will be illegitimate. And accordingly, if you are living in a Muslim society, we have to stop that by the law. And such people will be tried and will be punished. This is a state of adultery. And we should not allow that to happen by any means, even if it is in a non-Muslim society, because I don't think there is any society which allows that.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, the second question from Sister Fatima was regarding optional prayers. She says that nawafil prayers, can we make prayers and make dua in these prayers in our own language? And she said something for our own needs here, Sheikh.
For non-Arabic speakers, whether it is fard or nafl, in your sujood, if you want to invoke Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for your special needs, and you don't know how to phrase it in Arabic, the language of the Quran and the language of the salah, then you may phrase it in your own language. And by the way, even if you pray by the heart, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala understands what you even intend, whether you disclose it or you reveal it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows it all. And this is one opinion. I mean, you will hear another opinion which says, no, but Allah knows best. I'm adopting this opinion. It is permissible for non-Arab to invoke Allah in their prayer, and other than the recitation and the dhikr in their sujood, or after the tashahud and before the taslim, or after the taslim in their own language.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, Sister Aisha from Bahrain asked a question about planning for the future. We know everything's in the qadr of Allah and so forth. Sister says, how do I go about planning? Am I allowed to save money for my children for the future? Is this kind of planning going against the qadr? Are we allowed to do this kind of?
This is a very crucial aspect, because you have to keep an equilibrium, a state of balance between two facts.
Okay.
The first fact is that this life is temporary, short and brief, and it has an end. And the Prophet ﷺ said with that regard, أَكْثِرُوا مِنْ ذِكْرِ هَادِمِ اللَّذَّاتِ. Remember much the destroyer of every fun and joy, death. And Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, said that once the Prophet ﷺ grabbed hold of me, of my shoulder, and said, كُن فِي الدُّنْيَا كَأَنَّكَ غَرِيبٌ أو عابر سبيل. Be in this life as you are a wayfarer or a stranger. What does it mean? It means do not attach your heart so much to this world as you are living forever. On the other hand, I began by saying that we have to keep a state of balance between this fact that we have to prepare for departure and working for our worldly life and working hard. Abdullah ibn Umar later on used to say, إِذَا أَمْسَيْتَ فَلَا تَنْتَظِرُ الصَّبَاحِ وَإِذَا أَصْبَحْتَ فَلَا تَنْتَظِرِ الْمَسَاءِ وَخُذْ مِنْ صِحَّتِكَ لِمَرَضِكَ وَخُذْ مِنْ حَيَاتِكَ لِمَوْتِكَ. So he perfectly understood the meaning of the advice of the Prophet ﷺ. It definitely does not mean wait at home for your death. Do not do anything. Do not study. Do not earn your living. Absolutely not. It doesn't mean that. Some people misunderstand it due to misinterpretation by others. But the fact of this hadith is to keep balance between the requirements of this life and the fact that you are leaving and one day you will be held accountable. So Abdullah ibn Umar used to say, in the evening, always prepare yourself that maybe you will never see the morning. And in the morning, prepare yourself, it could be your last morning. In what sense? In a sense of always renewing your covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, renewing your repentance, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. And if you ever think that you're powerful and you can oppress others, hey, remember, it could be your last day before you'll be able to fulfill your threat. That is the meaning of that. And always prepare for the hereafter. This is the first part. The second part, is it prohibited to plan for the future? No. The Prophet ﷺ once drew a square. I think it's the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. And in this square, he drew a straight line. He drew a square, and he drew a straight line in the middle of the square, going all the way out of the boundaries of the square. He said, this is the amal, the hope and the dream, our ambitions that we plan forever, like we live in beyond life itself. I want to do this and I want to do that. That's fine. Then the Prophet ﷺ drew lines crossing this straight line and said, these are al-a'rad, the tests and the trials, poverty, illness. And amongst them is a'rad, which is irresistible, and it does not give any previous warning, death. While one is planning to do this and this and that, and to graduate, and to go to this school, and to get married, he could be snatched quickly out of life without feeling, without any warning. So what is the meaning of this and that? It means live in this life, fulfill what Allah wanted from you to fulfill, number one. Avoid what Allah has prohibited you from doing. Then earn your living, acquire the proper education, and all of that within the boundaries of do and do not do. The lawful, you may consume it. The unlawful, you must abstain from it. As far as planning, the greatest man ever, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, was the greatest planner as well. He used to plan for years to come. Didn't he say, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when he was told that, O Messenger of Allah, we fast on the 10th of Muharram, and the Jews also fast on the 10th of Muharram, and said that, do not copy them? He said, yeah. لَإِنْ عِشْتُ إِلَى قَابِلٍ If I live until next year, I shall fast the 9th along with the 10th. Isn't this planning? So many narrations informed us that the Prophet ﷺ said, if I live till next year, so he was planning for a year to come. That is permissible, as long as you are so certain of the factual that it could be over before you will be able to fulfill this dream of yours.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Sister Aisha had another question, and it's regarding her father-in-law. He wants the money, he needs some money to marry off part of the family, I believe a daughter. She says that he's asked my husband for this money. Now the husband has the money, but the only reason he's hesitant is because he knows he's going to be spending it on certain items of the wedding which are un-Islamic. He doesn't really want to give this money because of what his father's going to do. She also says her father will go and borrow the money from somebody else if he won't get this. As you know, it's a very difficult situation for the husband here. What's your advice for him, Sheikh?
Number one, the word of lending money to those who are in need is even greater than the word of the charity. Second, lending those who are in desperate need, especially if they are family members, is greater than lending to strangers. Third, amongst the greatest ways of spending in nowadays life is supporting a couple who want to get married. Supporting, establishing a new Muslim life through marriage. This is one of the greatest causes that I encourage every Muslim to spend. I even encourage Muslims who go to perform Hajj every year because Allah has blessed them with plenty of wealth, that maybe you can skip 1 year and sponsor a few young men who want to get married. With this amount of money that you're spending, you can support and sponsor their marriage. It is one of the great causes of spending. So now you can give this money, hoping for the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and meanwhile give an advice to the father to avoid what Allah has prohibited, especially during the marriage parties and ceremonies.
Okay, Sheikh. And the last question of the sister is attached to particularly that, the parties and so forth. She says that this marriage is going to have, unfortunately, some aspects which are un-Islamic, the free mixing and so forth, maybe even the other entertainment things people do nowadays when it comes to marriage. And she says that we've told them it's un-Islamic, could advise them to no avail. And she says that we want to avoid this, not attending, but they want your advice on this, Sheikh.
I still advise you to rush to help them with the financial means which are required to perform this marriage because of the greater cause. And if he insists still on utilizing this money in what Allah has prohibited, he's not utilizing the entire money. You're facilitating a great cause, which is marriage. And this money would not be consumed totally in the party. If he says, I want this money to make the party, I would say, no. Is partying haram? No, it's not haram. Only what you add to it to make it haram will convert it into haram. We do party. We got married when we have great parties, we have great amount of people who attended and we had fun. But when I allow unlimited mixing and mingling between men and women, and I allow unlawful celebrations, band and others, and listening to what Allah has prohibited in these parties, then it becomes prohibited. How could you start such a very beautiful life very recommended by Allah and His Messenger ﷺ, to the point that Allah considered it one of His signs in this universe, as He mentioned في سورة الروم ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة. So you convert this blessing into a ma'asiyah or a sin. How could you begin your marriage life with disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? But it is not your role to determine whether you should allow this or not. Because if you have an access to advice, that's fine. If he's asking you for a fund for marriage to prepare his daughter and get the appliances and furnish the apartment, you have to help right away if you can afford that.
And attending the occasion, Sheikh?
Attending, generally speaking, one is not allowed to attend anything where it has a ma'asiyah or a disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether little or big, by any means. Because your attendance means, yes, go ahead and do it. Your attendance is a sign of approval. And the Prophet ﷺ said, the least way, the least method that a believer can change what Allah has prohibited is via his heart. What does it mean? Via his heart, you avoid it. You don't be in the place where you know that Allah has been disobeyed.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Well, that's all the time we're left today. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for all your answers. If you want to send an email, please send it to ask@huda.tv. We are getting many emails and we are replying to them. I do believe that we've virtually finished all of them so far. So please do send your emails in and we'll be sending our replies very quickly. Well, until next time, we leave you with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.